Well, here we have a realistic issue with regards to what is happening, and the CDC is seeing it now, is that there is reduced uptake of all vaccines across the board. Now,
Yeah.
their view would be, and public health's view is, oftentimes, even if a mistake was made, the damage of acknowledging it can reach other areas that had already been properly, thoroughly vetted. And
Mm.
so, in the context of protection to the population, public health could quite easily argue that actually, to protect the population, we shouldn't acknowledge any of these issues. From a
Mm.
legal perspective, is that a reasonable point?
I think there is a reasonable. This is a reasonable assumption, because those who are responsible for this potential tragedy would necessarily have to be liable for their actions. And some of these people, not only liable, but criminally liable. The Premier of Western Australia was calling those who raised some doubts on this subject, he called them dropkicks. He told that they should grow a brain. He offended them and forced them to be inoculated in order to keep their jobs. I couldn't travel I could sue him even, because I had a second job in Sydney as an adjunct professor at Notre Dame. I could not go there. I didn't renew my contract. I lost money as a result. But I saw people who didn't have their families together with them because the wife traveled overseas and she could not come back to Western Australia because the borders were closed. And not only internationally, interstate borders were closed in violation of the Constitution. Section 92 of the Australian Constitution says that the borders should be absolutely free. And they were not absolutely free at all. They were completely closed by this person with the support of the federal government.
And so the legal ramifications going forward, and this is one of the big issues, is that I think if the pandemic was over and everything was completely back to normal, and I say this in the sense that the WHO has declared the pandemic over. But
Yeah.
what I mean is that if infection levels had dropped down and everything was almost back to normal, these questions would probably be moot. But we are still probably going to see ongoing issues out of the pandemic. And from a scientific point of view, I have said that the combination of vaccine priming and recurring infection in the context of autoimmunity is extremely serious and needs to be urgently assessed from a scientific point of view. But putting that aside, is it likely that governments will have to face more legal challenges from their populations around the management of the pandemic?
Yes, but I'm not necessarily the person who is how can I say, the sender of the good news. And I don't think, I think there will be more legal challenges, but I'm not entirely confident about judges doing the right thing, because judges in Australia, for instance, are appointed by the government of the day. And when it comes to protecting human rights, they still apply this terrible concept coming from your country called parliamentary sovereignty, meaning that the judges are not there to uphold fundamental rights at all. By the way, the concept of parliamentary sovereignty says that the parliament can violate human rights with total impunity. And judges are chosen by the government. They attend the same clubs. If you want to see a judge, you go to the World Club in Western Australia, they will be having dinner or lunch with a politician. I was appointed because I was the senior vice president of the Liberal Party to be a law reform commissioner. I don't think I would ever be appointed a commissioner if I were not part of the political class. So it's simple as that. I do not trust enough the judiciary to do the right thing, because judge should always be appointed by merit and not by the attorney general or the government of the day, as it is the case in Australia, and certainly the same as to the United Kingdom.
So this raises serious questions going forward. I mean, there is the issue at the moment that there do seem to be some lawsuits that are coming through against pharmaceutical companies with regards to the vaccine for people who have been injured. And based on what you're saying, are you suggesting that it's unlikely that these will actually be able to be overcome in the courts?
Oh, I'm not saying that people should not explore this possibility, but I'm not entirely optimistic. I'm not entirely optimistic. I feel that the best way to go is political. I think what we need to do is to learn a lesson and kick out these parasites from parliament and start to actually elect better, more decent people. I mean, I feel that what we need is to rescue our classical liberal values and traditions and put politicians who actually value the rule of law, that put a price for the protection of individual rights and freedoms. But that depends on the people. So if we are not able to make the right decisions, well, enough they can complain because they are there. They should be working for us. They are the servants of the people. But I feel each day more enslaved by the politicians. I actually feel afraid even of open my letterbox these days. So everything
So
coming from government makes me very afraid indeed.